Hello, here we go with chapter 5 of the Julian chapter, and this chapter is called Scared. When I was about 5, I remember watching an episode of SpongeBob one night, and a commercial came on TV that totally freaked me out. It was a few days before Halloween. A lot of commercials came on during that time of year that were kind of scary, but this one was for a new teen thriller I've never heard about before. Suddenly, while I watched the commercial, a close-up of a zombie's face popped up on the screen. Well, it totally and completely terrified me. I mean, terrified me like the kind of terrified where you actually run out of the room screaming with your arms in the air. Terrified. After that, I was so scared of seeing that zombie face again, I stopped watching any TV until Halloween was over and the movie was no longer playing in theaters. Seriously, I stopped watching TV completely. That's how scared I was. Not long after that, I was on a play date with some kid whose name I don't even remember. And this kid was really into Harry Potter. So we started watching one of the Harry Potter movies. I've never seen any of them before. Well, when I saw Voldemort's face for the first time, the same thing happened that had happened when the Halloween commercial came on. I started screaming hysterically, wailing like a total baby. It was so bad the kid's mother couldn't calm me down, and she had to call my mother to come pick me up. My mom got really annoyed at the kid's mom for letting me watch the movie, so they ended up getting into an argument, and, long story short, I never had another playdate there again. But anyway, between the Halloween zombie commercial and Voldemort's noseless face, I was kind of a mess. Then, unfortunately, my dad took me to the movies at around that same time. Again, I was only about 5, maybe 6 by now. It shouldn't have been an issue. The movie we went to see was rated G, totally fine, not scary at all, but one of the trailers that came on was for Scary Fairy, a movie about demon fairies. I know, fairies are so lame, and when I look back, I can't believe I was so scared of this stuff. But I freaked out at this trailer. My dad had to take me out of the theater because, yet again, I couldn't stop crying. It was so embarrassing. I mean, being scared of fairies? What's next? Flying ponies? Cabbage Patch dolls? Snowflakes? It was crazy. But there I was, shaking and screaming as I left the movie theater, hiding my face in my dad's coat. I'm sure there were 3-year-olds in the audience who were looking at me like I was the biggest loser. That's the thing about being scared, though. You can't control it. When you're scared, you're scared. And when you're scared, everything seems scarier than it ordinarily would be, even things that aren't. Everything that scares you kind of mushes together to become this big, terrifying feeling. It's like you're covered in this blanket of fear, and this blanket is made out of broken glass and dog poop and oozy pus and bloody zombie zits. I started having awful nightmares. Every night I'd wake up screaming. It got to a point where I was afraid to go to sleep because I didn't want to have another nightmare. So then I started sleeping in my parents' bed. I wish I could say this was just for a couple of nights, but it went like this for 6 weeks. I wouldn't let them turn off the lights. I had a panic attack every time I started drifting off to sleep. I mean, my palms would literally start to sweat and my heart would start to race. And I'd start to cry and scream before going to bed. My parents took me to see a feelings doctor, which I only later realized was a child psychologist. Dr. Patel helped me a little bit. She said what I was experiencing were night terrors, and it did help me to talk about them with her. But I think what really got me over the nightmares were the Discovery Channel nature videos my mom brought home for me one day. Woohoo for these nature videos! Every night, we'd pop one of them into the DVD player, and I'd fall asleep to the sound of some guy with an English accent talking about meerkats or koalas or jellyfish. Eventually, I did get over the nightmares though. Everything went back to normal. But every once in a while, I'd have what Mom would call a minor setback. Like, for instance, although I love Star Wars now, the very first time I saw Star Wars Episode 2, which was at a birthday sleepover when I was 8, I had to text my mom to come get me at 2 a.m. because I couldn't fall asleep. Every time I closed my eyes, Darth Sidious's face would pop into my head. It took about 3 weeks of nature videos to get over that setback, and I stopped going to sleepovers for about a year after that too. Then, when I was 9, I saw Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, for the first time. And the same thing happened to me again. Though this time, it only took me about a week to get over Gollum. By the time I turned 10, though, all those nightmares had pretty much gone away. Even the fear of having a nightmare was gone by then, too. Like if I was at Henry's house and he would say, "Hey, let's watch a scary movie." My first reaction wasn't to think, "No, I might have a nightmare," which is what it used to be. My first reaction would be like, "Yeah, cool. Where's the popcorn?" I finally started being able to see all kinds of movies again. I even started getting into zombie apocalypse stuff, and none of it ever bothered me. That nightmare stuff was all behind me, or at least I thought it was. But then, the night after I met Augie Pullman, I started having nightmares again. I couldn't believe it. Not just passing bad dreams, but the full-blown, heart-pounding, wake-up screaming kind of nightmares I used to have when I was a little kid. Only I wasn't a little kid anymore. I was in the 5th grade, 11 years old. This wasn't supposed to be happening to me anymore. But there I was again, watching nature videos to help me fall asleep. And that's the end of chapter 5.